It's been quite a journey. It was something I'd never really thought about. But working in the camping industry, it taught me a lot about collaboration and education and more working together than competition. That you could achieve more things together than you could kind of beat out other businesses.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I am your host, Michael Palmer, and today we have a special two-part episode series with Kerri Bouffard, who is the owner of Advantage Bookkeeping and a Xero expert. If you want to know a thing or two about Xero and the benefits of having systems in your business, here's part one of our chat. Kerri Bouffard, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm excited to hear about your journey and share with our listeners where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. So, Kerri, before we get into all of that, tell us a little bit about you and your career journey leading up to this point.
Well, it hasn't been without its challenges, that's for sure. I originally started out at a relatively young age working as the business manager for a children's summer camp. And that's where I really got my start with bookkeeping. I was kind of required to take care of the office. It was a family-run business, and it was wonderful people. And we would move our entire office up to camp, which was out by Algonquin Park. So I really had the best of both worlds. And I worked there for 12 years, and I had never even thought about, transitioning into being an entrepreneur or starting my own business. And it was when the owner of the camp decided, okay, it's time for me to retire. I've built this wonderful thing. Now I'm going to relax a little bit. And he said, Kerri, you know what? You are really good at bookkeeping. This is what you need to do. You need to open your own business, and I will be your first client. And that is exactly what I did. And that was back in 2003. And that was when Advantage Bookkeeping got started.
Wow.
So it's been quite a journey. It was something I'd never really thought about. But working in the camping industry, it taught me a lot about collaboration and education and more working together than competition. That you could achieve more things together than you could kind of beat out, other businesses and competing with one another. So those types of lessons I learned quite young. And then I built the practice up, and then the family decided we were going to be moving 4 hours north. So I used to live just east of Toronto, and we decided we were going to be moving up into Sudbury. So that required me to build up business number two. Same business. Lots of my clients followed me, which I had to think outside the box of how we were going to exchange information because we were still back in desktop age, and required, making sure that because we're dealing with sensitive documents, does the courier hand off to a different courier? Because not all couriers come up directly up into Sudbury. Sometimes they'll hand off to a smaller company. So all in the name of trying to be secure for the clients and still maintain good service, it required a little bit more work. In 2018, I was scouted by a local accounting firm, and I went and worked in there for a year and a half, helping develop their cloud. And then I left there and rebuilt number three. And that's what's brought me here today.
Wow. So along the way, many changes. You're on sort of version 3 of your business. And what were some of the, in those early days when you were starting out your business, what were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome? You mentioned one with technology. What were some of the other obstacles you faced as a startup?
I think mostly is just trying to get your name out there and build that reputation and really find those other bookkeepers to collaborate with. It was very early days. There was no cloud bookkeeping. There was no groups on Facebook the way we have today. So it was, I literally at one point went door to door and here's my card and talking to business owners. There wasn't a lot of networking, and some of the networking that you found, it was very expensive. So it wasn't something that a small startup business owner would be able to do. I also had small children, and I was trying to raise children and run a business and start moving things forward and things like that. And it was just trying to get your name out there and build that reputation and then get more clients and more clients. And thankfully, that took a few years to kind of build to be at a comfortable level where I was able to provide, and I was building that reputation out. And I built it out enough that when I did make that move, I had clients that followed me that didn't want to lose my services. I even had one client when I was in Sudbury. He moved from Sudbury to Newfoundland to Australia to Alberta and back to Newfoundland and back to Sudbury and maintained me as his bookkeeper.
Wow, amazing. With some of those startup moves back in the day, they probably still applicable. I know they're still applicable today. What did you find was most effective for you in obtaining new clients?
I was always very casual. I was always very, we can just, if this is what we're looking at, listening to that business owner, trying to find them, that, you get a sense of a comfort level that, you're not this, high-powered person that isn't able to speak their language, that, they didn't want to contact you because it was just, I'm not going to understand, or how am I going to get this across, or are they going to charge me every time I have to pick up the phone or send them an email or something in order to ask a question. Once I kind of grew out that comfort level, it became much easier because then they were able to refer me better. And our industry is very much built on referrals. And once I started, building that reputation with both clients and their accountants, it kind of moved from there. It's still not without its struggles, but it did kind of move from there very well. And I think just, be true to yourself. Don't try and pretend you're something you're not. Look at your values. Do you want to be in that high-powered suit, or are you okay going to a meeting in a pair of jeans? And it's going to attract the right customer to you.
It's great advice, because if you try to be something you're not, you end up getting things that are not congruent with who you are, and it's not going to be a good outcome. Whereas if you be yourself from the beginning and you build it that way, you attract the things that are going to fit really well into your life. It sounds like you've done that. It's also really interesting, I think a great note for many, that in the beginning, it can be very challenging, or feel that it's very challenging, because you're building momentum. And building momentum is one of the most difficult things to do. It's where all the energy is required in anything in the universe, is to take something up to where it has velocity and it's got momentum and it's moving. Even with a plane, if you took a plane and you imagine a plane is on the ground, well, the most difficult part is getting it up in the air. Once it's in the air, well, there's other problems and things going on, but the energy is now not as much to keep that in the air. So with you really beat the street, beat the bushes, got a couple of clients, and then from that, it grew into other clients through referrals from accountants, from the accountants of those bookkeepers. And it's just something that spreads when you're great and you're good at what you do and you're passionate about what you do. People want to refer you to others, and the demand out there is so great for great bookkeepers like yourself, Kerri, that's what happens. So there's many listeners right now listening. You're listening right now. That's you. If you're a startup, what it takes is you've got to get out there into the world, whatever means that is. And of course, in COVID days, it's going to be different than if we could just, walk around the streets and drive around and go places. So you got to be creative, but you got to get out there and beat the bushes, beat the street. And then that's what happens. Now, your business, you put yourself into these situations where it's a bit of a roller coaster. You built up your business, then you moved to another location, then you went off and did other things. So you put in some of your own obstacles, and that's what happens when life gets in the way of our great plans, right? So now, with your thinking of that stage of your business, the startup, and sort of through that stage, if you could tell your past self or give your past self some advice, what advice would you give that past self at the beginning of your business to say, hey, you know what? Focus here, look out for that, make sure you do these things. What might be those things that you would recommend to your past self?
One, get your system, get your plan, get your, I find a lot of us start up and we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And especially if you're starting up right now, you can get that app overwhelm because there are just so many options out there. Just really focus, sit back. Don't always listen to all the talking all around you, investigate, test things out, but really have a focus of, okay, this is what I want to accomplish, get those systems, and how am I going to track? How am I going to keep pace? What am I going to do for my marketing? I kind of fell into it, and it didn't train me for then when I had to build it again. I knew what I knew how to do. Could I have done it better? Absolutely. Could I have had better systems in place when I started out? Absolutely. Could I have had a little bit more focus? Absolutely. But I had never planned on going into my own business before. So I didn't have the knowledge that there were so many different aspects of things that I really should be looking at, that I'd be wearing all these different hats. But there is a wealth of knowledge out there. And I love our community because they are so collaborative. It is just truly amazing. Everybody seems to be out there to help. And tap into that. If you're starting out, tap into that assistance and knowledge base. It's just incredible. But think about all the different aspects. What are you going to do if you get sick? What are you going to do for payroll? What are you going to do? Do you have somebody in your community or another colleague that you can go and tap into and collaborate with, that if something happens to you, it's that not necessarily a succession plan, but you don't want to let those clients down. So, find that trusted person, get your systems in place, find, how are you going to market? Where are your clients? Try and think about the kind of clients you have and what market you want to serve. I would never have thought about any of this starting up, and it's what I'm doing now. Been in business for almost 20 years, and it's what I'm rethinking now is really just a lot more focus because I feel like I'm starting up again, and I want to be more focused because I see the benefits of it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. And I mean, it's always, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah.
But yet it's great learnings for others. And I also want to put in a note that, whether, if you go out and you get a flat tire in your car, you're not going to like getting a flat tire. But getting the flat tire might be the best thing that ever happened to you because it made you stop. And then, we just don't know what today's events can bring tomorrow. And so, sometimes making mistakes are the best things that can happen to us. They can be great interruptions in our life. So don't want to say that you've done it wrong or anything like that, but learning and seeing others and avoiding some of the mistakes that others have made is just good sense, right?
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about today, where you're at today, and maybe recent time. You became a Pure Bookkeeping licensee. You've been working with Pure Bookkeeping as a content writer for Xero. So many different things that are happening. You're building your business. Let's go into some of those things.
Okay. Lots going on. And I'm so forever grateful for all the things that I have going on right now. And I'm very grateful for trying to keep myself organized, that I learned about time blocking and some of these systems now, because it really is my saving grace of being able to focus on the multitude of different hats I'm wearing right now. So I'm having a blast rewriting the content for Pure Bookkeeping and trying to make it as wonderful and as good as it can possibly be. And I never had pictured my bookkeeping skills taking me into something like that. So you never know what opportunities are going to arise. I'm also the experience I received working at the accounting firm was they brought me in there for my Xero and my conversion skills. And again, I never thought of that being an option. And so I really learned about all the different apps and so many different industries. And so I'm focusing on that part. And then I have my regular bookkeeping business that I'm also, now implementing the Pure Bookkeeping system. I've been doing this for a long time, and there I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Okay, that's great. Now I have a checklist for that. Now I have a system for that. Now I can, allocate and have a team. I'm not stuck doing all the work anymore, which is something I had never thought was going to happen. So there's lots of different opportunities all within the same industry, which is fantastic.
Fantastic. Amazing. And what would you say for you has been the greatest revelation, I guess, of the time that you're now living with your business?
That you can do it. I know there was often, the old, well, that's how we always did it. So, that's how we do it. That's not the case. And you're never, you're never too old to start over. You're never too busy. If you really want it, you have the time you can make the time to do it. And there's so many tools out there right now that can make your life easier if you take the time to implement and learn about them, start to finish, put the time in at the very beginning, and you'll get it back tenfold. And really start positioning yourself that you can live the type of life that you really, truly want to live. As we get older, we have different ideas of where we want our lives to be and where we want our lives to go. We start thinking about retirement and things like that. You're never too old to start building out these systems or taking advantage of some of these apps and processes that are out there.
That is absolutely true. And I love hearing that as inspiration. Wherever you're at, there's always opportunity. Now, you work with Xero, and for many, that would be something new. I mean, Xero has been around for a very long time. It is a market leader in Australia, and New Zealand is where it originated. And it is growing in North America. Tell us a little bit about, you worked for you've done Australian work as well, and that's where maybe you got but I'd love to hear the story of how Xero became to be a big part of your life.
So I'm a member of CPB Canada, and I put my entire practice into the cloud in 2012. And I was, a lot of bookkeepers back then weren't really jumping on that cloud bandwagon. Me, I just wanted the freedom to be able to travel and not be tied to my desk all the time, but at the same time, making sure that my clients were completely satisfied that they still had their payroll getting done and things like that. my Australian client, he didn't want to let me go. So we had to think outside the box of how we were going to make this work. So in my research doing that, it came up that I had a couple of options. I either had cloud hosting, which you take your desktop software and host it in a cloud server, or there was cloud software that was just starting to emerge on the market. And working with being a member of the CPB, I started putting together a couple of webinars and presentations and speaking at the conferences, teaching bookkeepers how to get into the cloud, that it wasn't this scary place, that it is secure, that there are backups, there are this, but it really let me do a deep dive into all the different options out there. And at the time, Xero was one of them that was in. Xero officially didn't launch in Canada until, I believe it was 2018. I've been using them since 2014. I just started using them and I really just liked it a lot better than the other options out there. I often talk about software as being like the Coke Pepsi debate. It was always QuickBooks versus Sage. They both did the same thing, but it was a preference. Coke Pepsi, same thing, but it's your preference. Well, Xero and the other software out there, Xero became my preference. And I grew my practice from there. And it was just something, I liked the way it worked. I liked the community. I liked the company culture. And it just has grown from that point to now I'm a Xero-only firm.
Love it. Now, tell me this. Is Xero Coke or is Xero Pepsi?
I'm a Coke person.
So there you go. We know your favorites. Now, you've also, as I mentioned, you've been writing our Xero standard operating procedures for bookkeeping firms. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I was blessed with a pure bookkeeping license. And as I was going through the training program, I was like, okay, well, this isn't right. This isn't right. And I started saying, it made me start thinking outside the box because it really tested my knowledge of Xero. And I'm like, okay, Xero is actually putting a lot of time and effort into building out the North American market. So it is very important that Pure Bookkeeping, which is very supportive of the bookkeeping community, have something of quality for that offering of Xero, that it really should be included. They are coming in very strongly. There's becoming a lot more growth and a lot more people are signing up or, offering multiple softwares within their firm. And to me, it was just, it needed to be correct for the pure bookkeeping system because it does operate differently than a lot of the software out there. And it needed to be accurate. And there are certain, procedures that you would have to do in Xero that are different than other software.
Well, I have to say, you said you're blessed to be a pure bookkeeping licensee. We're blessed to have you working on our Xero SOPs because one of the challenges that we've had in North America with Xero is there's very few people that have the knowledge, the expertise of the software, and also be great bookkeepers who have the bandwidth, desire, and ability to actually document and write the level of detail needed in order to have a system that your staff can follow without your help. And that's the magic and also the challenge of writing SOPs, standard operating procedures, is that they have to be detailed enough that others can do the work and do it without you. So you've got all of those things that's like, sometimes I call great people like yourself unicorns because they're very difficult to find. And so you can spend a whole lifetime looking for a unicorn. So you're our Xero unicorn, writing these SOPs from your depth of knowledge, which is exciting. Which is exciting. Yes, our Xero unicorn. And so pure bookkeeping, many ask, what is pure bookkeeping? We've been in the marketplace in North America since 2013. And I know you're with the CPB, and we've met over the years. I'd love to get your perspective and help our listener understand what did you think pure bookkeeping was when you first learned about pure bookkeeping, and after having gone in deep into the building the systems and understanding what pure bookkeeping is, what is it today?
So when I first learned about pure bookkeeping, it was one of those, okay, I really didn't understand what it was, quite frankly. It was, okay, it's a bunch of checklists, but I didn't really put an importance on it. I was sole bookkeeper firm. I kind of had everything in my head, and I thought that was all okay. I never had thoughts of having a team or expanding or any of that. It was just, well, what do I need something like that for? And then when I came on board and I really started seeing what it was, I'm like, wow, I wish I had this years ago. Because even though you have it all in your head, that's not a good place for it all to be, for one, and it causes you not to sleep at night. But even if you are the only one in your firm, it takes that second guessing out. As I said, when I was going through it, I'm like, wow, I never even thought about having, the double check of that. It really puts it forward that you are doing the best bookkeeping practices for your clients and for yourself, that you're not having to second guess, well, did I get that HST return? What am I really waiting on? Everything's in the pure bookkeeping system. The whole process is all the double checks. Now I'm comfortable bringing in a team because I know I have the system of pure bookkeeping behind my firm to help me, that I can now just have confidence that things are getting done, because they've made it that, okay, I double check a couple of things, and I have the proof that is actually done correctly and on time and everything else. That everything it was really eye-opening, because I thought, well, what did I really need that for? And now I wish I had started it years ago.
Mm. It's great to have you. It's great to hear that perspective, and certainly helpful for those that are thinking about that and want to have that for their business. You mentioned some benefits of having more peace of mind, being able to get things out of your head, also being able to have a better quality outcome and product for your customers, and then as well now scaling with staff and team members and those sorts of things. So it's applicable for all stages of a journey. Such a great chat with Kerri. That was part 1. We'll speak more about Xero, her experiences with pure bookkeeping, and why systems are so powerful for your business in part 2, which you can listen to next week. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.